really excited to be able to have this conversation with Ellis. The reason Ellis isn't with us this afternoon is that he's beginning his study abroad course. You might recall that this is the Brazil study abroad this year, and they begin to meet pretty much during the time that we do this panel discussion. I know this is going to be somewhat unsatisfying because we're only going to have about 10 minutes of this, but Ellis is very eager to talk about this. We've had a lively conversation about the course to begin, and what I hope to do in asking some questions, as I will with everyone, is whet your appetite for what the possibilities are. Ellis, one of the things that I know is that you've had the opportunity to develop 5 courses for the political science curriculum. Could you tell us what that sequence is?
Yes, the courses consist of, the first one was Introduction to Leadership, and it was tentatively numbered 210X. And I offered this course in the fall semester of 2012. The second course, the American Presidency, which was tentatively numbered 331X, and this course is being offered currently for the winter semester of 2013. The third course, which will be offered in the fall of 2013, is the Politics of Detroit, which would be 331 or 332X, pardon me. The fourth course, which would be offered in the next semester, would be Urban Politics, and that is 333X. And the last course is Comparative Urban Politics, which would be offered the next semester, and that the course number is tentatively 334X.
And my understanding is, as you've thought about developing the courses, one of the things that's, from my perspective, really rich about it is that you've been able to think about the cities that you've visited in some of your other travels, that they'll be part of the course in some fashion?
Yes, that would be mostly the Comparative Urban Politics course, and it would integrate my experiences from travels to places like Havana, Cuba, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Salvador, Brazil, Mexico City, Mexico, Honolulu, Hawaii, and then some cities in the United States, New York, Chicago, but always bringing the focus back to Detroit.
So one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you is because I thought it was just such an interesting outcome of your program review and your sabbatical that you thought of 5 new courses. And that's pretty distinctive so far in the development of an urban leadership curriculum. But I want to go micro for a minute, and I've had the pleasure of talking to one of your students who was in the Leadership Studies course last semester. And one of the things he said to me was how much he enjoyed the assignments. We don't hear that all that often. So one of the things I was going to ask you to do is talk about 2 that were particularly interesting to him. He said that there was a leadership plan and a leadership interview. And if I have it right, and I know you'll correct me, but if I have the leadership plan right, part of what they had to do was take a current action and respond to it in some way. Tell us a little bit about that assignment.
Yes, the assignment was in a leadership action plan that would be developed through a paper. The student was to take a problem, something they considered to be a problem related to the Detroit area, and they were to do several things as it related to that problem. They were to identify what the problem was, how they felt the problem had come about, place themselves in the role of a leader, and my purpose for having them do that was to gain some appreciation of how difficult it is for people to make decisions that impinge upon the lives of other individuals. But that's what part of the requirement was. And they also had to look at things like what problems might they encounter, what resistance might they encounter, what groups or organizations might they recruit as allies in their effort to resolve the problem, what would sustain them as a leader when times were tough, how they would assess the general effect of what their policy was, and then, draw a conclusion from all of that.
For my colleagues who were part of the Principles and Values work group this summer, I think what we're going to do is just get totally excited by the language that we've just heard you use. But one of the things I'm interested in is, how was it to read those assignments?
It was very interesting. Recollection tells me that a couple of the students chose the area of crime in Detroit and what they would do to try to resolve that. Another student's paper was on the issue of homelessness. Another student dealt with the issue of poverty, the poorest sector of the city of Detroit. Another paper, I recall, dealt with youth and how youth might be organized for more positive purposes in the city. A lot of good ideas came through those papers.
And judging from your work with the Urban Subjects group this summer, it sounds like there were a lot of those similar themes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing that I wish that I could have incorporated, but that's work for a future time, is from my work with the summer group, the topic of community engagement. And I would like to get the students more engaged. That would be the next step. It's one thing to talk about ideas on paper, to interview individuals, but part of the mission that we've now defined for ourselves is to help transform Detroit in a meaningful way, and that means, groundwork with working with people in the community. That's where I would like to take it next.
The last thing that I'm going to ask, just because we have such a little amount of time, is when you've thought about these 5 courses, have you thought about themes that you are going to try to develop throughout the courses? I see from the way you've described them the sense of linking, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you're thinking about with those links.
Yes. One would be to identify what urban issues are. From the national level on down to the local level, we all have a vested interest in major problems that occur within our cities, Detroit and other places. So I would like to utilize that as a theme. As I mentioned, community engagement, because it's not enough to simply talk about what should be done, but we want students to actually have some experience, whether that experience is on the national level or the local level. We want them to have some experiences. Some of the students in my course, the leadership course, were thinking about, is there a way that we can influence policy in Washington? And they were thinking about the civil rights days when people would go and express their grievances. I mean, they were really, really excited, and I would hate to curtail that excitement.